Hey guys, it's Generalkidd here. How's everyone doing today? So, for today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys some secret vehicles in Halo 3 ODST for MCC that you normally can't drive, or maybe you weren't even aware that they were actually vehicles. So, in the Halo 3 ODST, there were a lot of objects or things that were added to the game that were technically vehicles, but weren't really used at all in the game. So, let's get right into it. And the first one we'll be taking a look at is called the Ambient Banshee. Now, some of these I might have covered like specifically in like other videos, but this video will cover pretty much all the vehicles in ODST. So the Ambient Banshee, it looks like a regular Banshee. It pretty much is a regular Banshee, except it's not meant to be driven by players. It's normally disabled, but I have it enabled for this video so we can fly it around and see what it's like. And it's pretty much just a regular Banshee. But for some reason in the game it has a special version of the Banshee that's named Ambient Banshee, and it's not drivable to the players. Next up we have the Holo Throne. This should obviously be very familiar. It's the hologram that the Prophet of Truth sits on in Halo 3's campaign missions, and it is now in ODST as well. And even though it's just a hologram, the hologram itself is actually its own vehicle that you could drive. And what's interesting is that when you drive it, you become invisible as well. Next up we have what's called the Snow Ghost in the files. Now, this is also from Halo 3, and it was originally meant to be used on the map Avalanche in Halo 3. And since ODST got a lot of Halo 3 multiplayer maps, this came over with that. But I assume the Snow Ghost was it was meant to have snow textures, but it was never finished, and I'm guessing it's a cut vehicle, technically. I don't remember if it was actually used in-game, but there's no difference with that and the regular Ghost. Anyways, here we have the Covenant Drop Pod, or Insertion Pod, and it's the same as Halo 3 as well. A lot of these will be the same as the Halo 3 versions that you do see in-game, but this one, obviously, it's from campaign, and you're not really going to see it much. Next up we have the ODST Pod. Now, obviously, this one you do ride down to the surface in the beginning, but we never actually really get to see it much during the daytime scene. And moreover, we don't actually get to, we don't really get back into it at any point. In fact, we barely ever use the pod much. It's a very interesting vehicle, but it's it's something that we don't get to use very often, and it's kind of like a one and done thing, really, in the campaign. Next up we have the Olifaunt, and this has went by many names according to people. It's been called a dump truck, it's been called just an elephant, it's also been called an Olifaunt, but misspelled often in a lot of sources I've seen. But what you saw there, the Olifaunt, that is how it's actually spelled, at least in the game files. So actually driving it, this is an interesting vehicle to drive, because this is what it's like by default to drive it. The camera is so weird like this. It's not like the elephant's camera, which I thought it would be, but that's not the case here. Next up we have the Searchlight Chin Gun. So this is just the regular Phantom turret, or Phantom Chin Gun I should say, except it has a searchlight on it. Now, I am completely drawing a blank on this, but I can't remember if it was actually used anywhere in the campaign. It was used in the ODST Recon trailer, one of the first trailers, the reveal trailer for ODST really, where you see a phantom flying around the searchlight trying to find the rookie. But I can't remember if it was actually used in game or not. It probably was, and I'm just completely drawing a blank on it. But yeah, I just don't remember seeing it too often. I'm sure it was used somewhere, but I can't remember. So if someone could point it out for me, that'd be great in the comments. Next up we have the Snow Scorpion. In fact, the next few vehicles are the snow variants from Avalanche. But these vehicles were never originally in ODST, nor are they anywhere in the official game maps and modes. It's not in campaign, it's not in firefight, but it's there in the game files, and it's there in the multiplayer maps that have been included in the mod tools, but it's not officially there in the Xbox version, for example, or the maps that you play out of the box. And all the Avalanche vehicles are there. Although one of them is kind of interesting in this game, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But here we have the Mongoose, and of course we have the Warthog as well. All these snow variants. These are just regular vehicles, regular versions, except they have like a kind of snowy camo texture to them. And like I said, the Ghost earlier, I assumed the Ghost was meant to have like a snow camo as well, but I guess they never finished it, or they decided against it. But next up we have the Park Wraith here. Now, this vehicle, I don't really know what's different about it, but it has a separate version just for this. Like there's a regular Wraith in the game too, but it also has this park variant. And this is what's used on Uplift Reserve, like, you know, in the park. So it has a special version just for the park scene in Uplift Reserve. I don't really know what's different about it. Next up we have the Hornet Lite, or the Light Hornet, and this is, I don't think it's the Avalanche version actually, but the color is different. But it's not quite the same snow texture as the Avalanche version, in which case the Avalanche version of the Hornet is missing. So I don't remember if this was it or not. I can't tell, but if it is the Avalanche version, then this Hornet also has rockets, which is quite different from the actual snow version of the Hornet. So I don't think this is the snow version, but it does have different textures than the regular Hornet. But next up we have the Shrine Defender here, and this may seem familiar to you. This is one of the oldest. I almost want to say Easter eggs in Halo 3, but it's not an Easter egg, but people did call it a Da Vinci Code Easter egg back in the day. And this is the Guardians on Sandtrap. This is what would fire. It would fire like this very faint sentinel beams into the minefield, and when it hits the ground, it spawns a mine there. I remember people used to think that the minefield on Sandtrap was actually a minefield, and when you step into it, you would step on a mine and it would fly out. But it's actually not a minefield. It's actually these little Da Vinci Code Easter egg things firing a sentinel beam out there and causing a mine to spawn. That's how it actually worked, and it's been brought over to ODST now. But only the Sandtrap versions. On Sandbox, it has the exact same Easter egg, Da Vinci Code Easter eggs firing beams, but it's not included here. Anyways, next up we have the Sentinel Emitter, also from Halo 3's campaign, and this is what was used to spawn Sentinels on some maps in the campaign. But obviously it's not functional here. But it is technically a vehicle. Alright, next up, back into the more ODST related things, we have the security camera that we see across the Mombasa streets missions. And this camera, I mean, we see a lot of cameras around, but this particular camera itself is actually a vehicle. And it is, it can be made drivable as well, and you can see that as I rotate it around, I'm actually rotating the camera. Next up we have the Police Pelican. We do see this in the campaign, we see this in cutscenes. And I don't remember, we might see like some parked or crashed versions in gameplay as well. But this is a Pelican, but with a New Mombasa Police Department skin on it. And it has a few like police lights and other things attached to it as well to differentiate it from a regular Pelican. But like the regular Pelican, it is flyable still, and the passenger seats all still work just fine as well. So much the same as a regular Pelican, but with a fresh coat of paint and some attachments on it. Next up we have what's called a Cov Defender, or Covenant Defender turret, as I want to call it. And this may look familiar to you. It's the turrets on Snowbound. They are actually vehicles that can be used. Now, for some reason, I had trouble getting it to work here. I could not drive it no matter what, so I'm not sure what was going on here. But I've done a video before on driving this turret in Halo 3, so it's gonna be, it's not gonna be any different. The soccer ball from Halo 3 was also added to ODST, and if you remember from, I did a video on this before too, but for the Halo 3 version at least, not ODST. But the soccer ball and the golf ball in Halo 3 were actually vehicles. And as you can see, like, I can flip it around and stuff, but driving it is another story. It's quite difficult to get into the right position. I could not do it for this video no matter how much I tried, so but I've done a video on it before, so it's not gonna be any different. Next up we have what's called a Phantom Dropship. Like, it's actually called Phantom Dropship in the tags. There's a regular Phantom, and then there's a Phantom Dropship. And the Phantom Dropship, it is like a super fast version of the Phantom. Like, I can cross the map like so fast. And I think that's the main difference with this Dropship version. And also, compared to the Halo 3 Phantom, this version like actually hovers when I get out. Like it doesn't fall through the floor or anything like that, like it did in Halo 3. So that's I guess that's what's different from the regular Phantom. And I assume this is used a lot in the campaign, and probably firefight. Next up, we have these Pelican Rocket Pods. We have two versions of them, the right and left versions, and they were meant. I think they were only used once in the Halo 3 campaign on Sierra 117, where Hocus, I think, or some other pilot fires like a bunch of rockets to clear up enemies at the very end of that mission, Sierra 117. But I don't think they were ever used again. And they were even brought into ODST as actual vehicles, but I don't think they were used anywhere in the ODST campaign or firefight either. But they are pretty much rapid-fire missile pods, and they're very deadly and very powerful. So yeah, there you guys have it. Those are all the secret vehicles in ODST that you normally can't drive, or you normally aren't supposed to drive, or you might not even have known were actually vehicles either. Hopefully you guys found this video to be interesting, and as always, if you did, make sure to leave a like. Leave lots of comments. Anything else you want me to check out, look into, anything you want me to experiment with or explore, just let me know in the comments down below, and I'll definitely do my best to look into it and get the chance. But aside from that, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.